बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। अस्सलाम वालेकुम। कैपिटल टॉक में खुश आमदेद। आज हमारे मेहमान दो एम्बेसडर्स हैं। इन दोनों एम्बेसडर्स का ताल्लुक दो ऐसे ममालिक के साथ है जो आपस में नफ़रत की और जंग की एक तवील हिस्ट्री रखते हैं। इनकी आपस में बहुत जंगें हुई, उनमें हज़ारों लाखों लोग मारे गए, लेकिन फिर आखिरकार इनकी जो दुश्मनी है और नफ़रत है वो दोस्ती में बदल गई और मोहब्बत में बदल गई। और आज इस दुनिया में इन दो ममालिक की जो नफ़रत की कहानी है और जो मोहब्बत की कहानी है उसको एक मिसाल के तौर पर पेश किया जाता है। और कुछ दिन पहले हमारे वज़ीर-ए-आज़म इमरान खान साहब ने करतारपुर राहदारी के इफ्तिताह के मौका पे इन दोनों ममालिक का हवाला दिया, इनकी मिसाल पेश की। क्या कहा वज़ीर-ए-आज़म इमरान खान ने, ज़रा सुनिए।
मैं एक दिन देख रहा हूं कि हम भी जिस तरह फ्रांस और जर्मनी, उन्होंने कितनी जंगें लड़ी, कितने करोड़ लोग एक दूसरे के मरे, लेकिन आज जाके देखें फ्रांस और जर्मनी को, तिजारत करते हैं, बॉर्डर खुले हैं, खुशहाली है, कोई सोच भी नहीं सकता जंग का। इंशाल्लाह जब ये हमारा मसला हल हो जाएगा कश्मीर का, कश्मीरियों को अपने हकूक मिल जाएंगे, इंशाल्लाह ये बर्रे सगीर में भी उस तरह की खुशहाली आएगी, उस तरह ये हमारा सारा हमारा खिता उठेगा।
तो वज़ीर-ए-आज़म इमरान खान साहब ने जिन दो ममालिक का जिक्र किया वो थे फ्रांस और जर्मनी, और उन्होंने ये कहा कि जिस तरह इन दो ममालिक की दुश्मनी दोस्ती में बदली, तो एक दिन आएगा जब इस खिते में भी यही मिसाल जो है ये हकीकत बनेगी। तो क्या ये मुमकिन है? क्या फ्रांस और जर्मनी की जो मिसाल है उसको हम हिंदुस्तान और जो पाकिस्तान में जो कशीदगी है उस पर लागू कर सकते हैं? तो इस पर गुफ्तगू के लिए आज हमारे साथ मौजूद हैं फ्रांस और जर्मनी के एम्बेसडर्स। उनका तारुफ करवाऊंगा। हमारे साथ मौजूद है मिस्टर मार्क बेरिटी, द ऑनरेबल एम्बेसडर ऑफ फ्रांस इन पाकिस्तान, एंड मिस्टर बर्नहार्ड Schlegel, the Honorable Ambassador of Germany in Pakistan. Thank you very much. First of all, tell us, is it appropriate to compare the past between France and Germany and the current tension between Pakistan and India?
Well, thank you very much, Hamid, for inviting us together to your show, because we are about to celebrate on the 22nd of January the anniversary of the treaties of the Élysée and the first anniversary of the treaties of Aachen, which are really the base for the reconciliation and, further than that, the partnership between France and Germany. So, of course, it's very flattering to see that His Excellency the Prime Minister Imran Khan has referred, and not only this time but several times, to the relationship between France and Germany. It is, of course, quite tempting to do this, and I must say that there are a number of things that are comparable, but of course each situation is different. Our enmity with Germany started a very long time ago, and it ended up in 2 world wars and also other conflicts. Reasons for this were numerous, but there was arm race, there was nationalism, there was some sensitivity about geostrategic issues. Here, of course, you have a different context. The conflict is a result, so to say, of partition, unsolved issues of partitions. So we are not pretending that our relationship between France and Germany is an example to be followed, but we hope that in the future it could be an inspiration for the countries in the region.
Honorable Ambassador of Germany, can you tell us about the bad days? How many people were killed in wars between France and Germany?
Well, I don't have the exact numbers for the moment, but for instance, in this First World War, I mean the Great European War, there were millions being killed on all sides. I mean, take an example, the Battle of Verdun, the most atrocious battle in the First World War, killed roughly 160 French and 130 German soldiers. And I have to say, particularly when it comes to Verdun, I'm still absolutely struck by this image of our two presidents at the time, François Mitterrand and Helmut Kohl, standing hand in hand, I mean holding hands in front of the ossuary of Verdun, which gave a really powerful symbol of French-German reconciliation and looking forward into the future. And that was only in the 80s.
Yeah.
So I think that sent a very powerful message, and it still resonates with people like us.
Excellency, now tell us how this enmity turned into friendship.
Well, I think it was the result of the realization that having wars every 20, 30 years was unsustainable. We started, well, we have to put a limit, but 1870, then 1914, and then 1939. We realized that this was impossible to keep this pace and that something had to be done to solve our problems. So there was, at the very outset, a very strong political will, and you show on your documentary two very prominent figures of this normalization process. It's Chancellor Adenauer and General de Gaulle. To be very clear about this, it's not the first time that attempts have been made. Already in the 19th century, there was a German philosopher and thinker, he wrote a book in 1843 about the rapprochement between France and Germany. It's Mr. Rüge, his name was. In France, 1911, there was an intellectual and a minister, Marcel Samba, who wrote a book exactly about the same issue, how we bring France and Germany together to avoid further conflicts. So this is the beginning. But General de Gaulle and Chancellor Adenauer has put this into action. First action is to create people-to-people relationship. So this is the reason why they started twinning cities. 1950 was the first twinning between a French city and a German city. After this, there was the treaties of the Élysée. And these treaties started an intense cooperation in the field of politics, culture, and economy. On the other hand, we started the multilateral track that led to the European Union. So it's the political will that matters, but you have also to go to the grassroots and make sure that people are talking to each other. Exchange programs between the youth have been also very efficient. Now we have French and German young people who go to the other country to study or to stay for a few weeks or months, and this is very positive because it creates understanding between the two populations.
Excellency, please tell us, can we say that Élysée Treaty was actually the base for the creation of European Union?
Yes, I think we can say so. I mean, the German-French reconciliation and European integration are inextricably linked. And I think the German-French reconciliation builds the basis for the setup of the European idea. And frankly, this is, President Macron refers to it as a sort of miracle. It is, because, I mean, you have to see, I mean, Europe is, I would say, at the same time, the most aspirational and most successful attempt to pool national sovereignty and political responsibility, as it is, and no doubt about it, emerging from veritable nightmares. Because, I mean, if you see it even today. I mean, if you travel in Europe, you see all the marks of war and political conflict. I mean, you see it if you travel in France. I mean, you see all these plaques remembering those who have been killed in the First War beside those who have been killed in the Second. I mean, if you walk through German cities, you find these engraved brass cobblestones of people who lived there and at the time, and then had been deported and killed in the Holocaust. You find memorials everywhere. So Thomas Mann, one of the famous German writers, once wrote, I mean, if you travel through Europe, if you travel through Europe, you make a travel through time. And this Europe has been forged from the rubble of this fratricidal wars and eternal struggle. And this is really a great, I would say, a political achievement of particularly personalities, bold leadership by people like Konrad Adenauer and General de Gaulle, but also institutional setup, I mean, underpinning that, and then, and I totally agree with the French ambassador here, these grassroots contacts, that this idea of reconciliation was actually grounded in the broader public, in French and German people.
There was a territorial dispute also between France and Germany. Alsace-Lorraine, how this dispute was resolved?
Well, first the dispute started a long time ago, because it started in the 9th century. So you can imagine it's a long story. It became very acute after the War of 1870, where Alsace-Lorraine shifted to Germany. It was resolved later during the treaties of Versailles, where it shifted back to France, and again under Nazi occupation it was taken. So the resolution of this problem came at the end of World War II, where France recovered sovereignty over Alsace-Lorraine. Alsace is a region that is, of course, the symbol of enmity and of union between France and Germany, symbol of the partition between the two parts of the Carolingian Empire that were to become France and Germany, because it's interesting to see that the first document we have in French and in German is the Oath of Strasbourg, that is precisely in Alsace-Lorraine. So we have recovered this territory. The Alsatians speak a German dialect. So I've been serving in Alsace during my military time, and they speak between them a German dialect. What's interesting is that in Alsace, we have a very close cooperation, trans-border cooperation between France and Germany.
Absolutely.
And this is one of the things that has been even made stronger by the treaties of Aachen that was signed last year. Today, if you have a heart attack in a remote region of Alsace, well, if it's quicker to go to Germany to get a treatment, well, this is what happened. You're taken to Germany. So you see how this bone of contention between our two countries became a symbol of superb trans-border cooperation.
Excellency, can we compare Alsace-Lorraine with the dispute of Jammu and Kashmir?
Well, you see, I'm always a bit cautious to mechanically transfer one historic experience, as we have seen in Alsace-Lorraine, to another setting, because the circumstances, the historic conditions, also the background is always different. The nature of a conflict is different. I think what we can say is that even fratricidal conflicts or essential conflicts between countries can be resolved. And I think by dint of, as we have said, bold leadership, that would mean political will to do so, then it has to come from both sides. The parties themselves need to be involved, and they need to be convinced of it. And I think, thirdly, what is very important and what we have seen in the French and German example is, I think what is absolutely necessary is a degree of pragmatism and compromise. I think the willingness to look into the future rather than being obsessed by the past. And that, I agree, it's relatively general what I say, but that applies also to the question of Jammu and Kashmir.
Okay, so can India and Pakistan learn something from France and Germany?
Of course, there's always something to learn about history and about what happens elsewhere. But again, what I think is that you cannot duplicate, you cannot use something as a template. It's an historical experience that you can find inspiration in, to say, yes, it is possible, even when two countries were, as we said, hereditary enemies, because this was the term that was used in France and Germany. You inherit your enemy from the previous generations. So even in this case, when the death toll has been so humongous, well, even in such a situation, yes, even when, German troops have occupied Paris. This is something, and the French troops have occupied parts of Germany, in the Saarland, for instance, and even in Berlin. So even this, it is possible under such conditions. So it means it's inspiration rather than example.
Okay, Prime Minister Imran Khan is giving this example again and again, France, Germany, France, Germany. But if a follower and fan of Hitler is ruling India, then what should we do?
You have to talk.
You have to talk.
It's my feeling, and this is what we are. We are diplomats.
Yes.
And so we think that you solve problems by negotiations and diplomacy. It's difficult, and we've seen this elsewhere, because it's always difficult to even create the conditions for the dialogue, but this is the only way. War is not to be the option. It's difficult, but it's the way things should be.
I remember that the American President John F. Kennedy, he played an important role for the agreement which took place on 22nd of January 1963. He facilitated that. Do you think that in current situation in 2020, the American President, Mr. Trump, can also play some important role for bridging gaps between India and Pakistan?
Well, the Americans, are a world power still. They call themselves the indispensable nation, and it's true. They have played a role in Europe after the Second World War II. They were, I would say, midwifing to some extent the creation of the European Union. They encouraged European countries to come together, not least in view of the emerging geopolitical situation at the time, with the nascent Soviet Union coming up and gaining power. So yes, the Americans played a pivotal role in Europe after the Second World War, and yes, I believe the Americans can play and should play a role in South Asia, and I think they are prepared to do so. Of course, as I said before, a conflict must and should and will predominantly be resolved, be tackled and resolved by the parties themselves. So there must be a kind of willingness to come to the table and to talk. And it's true, it takes two to tango, but political leadership also encompasses that you are not too easily disencouraged by setbacks, that you have, I think, a strategic vision of what you want, and as I said before, I think a sense of pragmatism and compromise is absolutely necessary.
Sir, do you agree with him?
Of course, he's my German colleague, so I agree. But it's exactly what we are saying. You need compromise, you need discussion, you need negotiation, even if it's very complicated.
Okay. So, बहुत interesting discussion चल रही है. यहाँ पर हम एक वक्फा लेते हैं और वक्फे के बाद हमारी गुफ्तगू जारी रहेगी. Today we are talking to the honorable ambassadors of France and Germany और हम कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि इनसे कुछ सीखने की कोशिश करें. Excellency, now tell us about your experience in Pakistan. How do you see Pakistan now?
Well, that's a tall order. I have to say I came only in September, so I'm still, let's say, in a learning phase. But I'm trying to catch up. I haven't seen that much of this beautiful country, other than Mark, who is a veteran of the good cause, so to say. You know, you have to do all this diplomatic decorum. I mean, you have to submit your letters of credentials. Then you have to visit, you know, the important ministers. You know, the main figures of the establishment, and so on and so forth. So I was for some time bound here in Islamabad, but I traveled already to Lahore. I tried to Faisal, but next week I'm going to Karachi. So as I said, I'm catching up. So far, I have to say, this is an absolutely fascinating and intriguing country. I'm totally, I would even say, mesmerized by this, how to put that, unity in diversity. I mean, I find on the one hand there is this, the national anthem. There is one, I think there is a mentioning of kind of political unity in the brotherhood of the people, which I find is very telling about the aspiration of this country. It's a very, on the one hand, a unified country. On the other, it's a very diverse country. And I always, in all my career, I was much attracted to these countries where there is this dichotomy between unity and diversity, and how countries cope with that. And I'm very much looking forward to the next months and years to come. And apart from that, wonderful people, wonderful landscape, splendid, splendid food.
What about food? What about food?
Food, wonderful.
Wonderful. What is your favorite food in Pakistan?
Well, what should I say? I mean, I have to say, I do not want to be too
specific,
partial and partisan here, but I was quite recently in Lahore, and I have to say Punjabi food is splendid.
Okay.
But again, I haven't seen the other part of the countries. Perhaps I have to
when you will go to Karachi,
position.
When you
if you invite us in 2 years' time, again,
okay.
I'll let you know. Perhaps Belush cuisine is even better.
Yes, the Baluch cuisine is good, and the Peshawari food is also good. The Karachi biryani, you must taste Karachi biryani. Yes. And you have, Excellency, completed more than 2 years in Pakistan.
2 years,
so you,
yes.
3? No, two, more than 2 years. So, can you tell us what is your favorite Pakistani food?
I have to be careful.
Careful?
I have to be careful with my weight. So no, what I like very much halwa puri.
Halwa puri.
I like this, you know, this sort of big thing that inflates when you put it into oil. It's wonderful.
Okay.
So this is for breakfast. I like very much beef nihari and palak paneer as well. These are my favorite.
Beef nihari and palak paneer.
Yeah, and there's also the halwa with carrots that are
gajar ka halwa.
Yes, this is very good.
Okay, and what about the Pakistani music?
Well, I mean, it is something that is quite fascinating. I've been given the opportunity many times to attend concert, Kawali, Razal, etc. It is so diverse, so fascinating, that you are invited at a friend's place and all of a sudden he said, oh, I brought a musician, and then he starts with the harmonium, singing, etc. But we have a specific relationship with one cultural outlet here in Lahore, which is Peru's Cafe, Rafi Pier Theatre. And last September or beginning of October, we organized a Sufi music concert at the residence of France to celebrate this partnership with a local group that is really organizing beautiful cultural events in Lahore. And so we celebrated this, but not later than last week with Saeed Jamal Shah to bid farewell to one of our colleagues. And again, he invited a group and he sang himself. So it's, music is really part of life here. And it's a very spiritual music.
So you are enjoying Pakistani music here. So do you agree that the security situation in Pakistan is improving day by day?
Of course. Not only I agree, but I draw consequences of this. And we have improved our travel advisory already twice since I'm here. So it's more open now for tourists to come, and I'm very hopeful that in the coming month we'll relax further our travel advisory, because it's very true that the security situation has improved dramatically, not only in 3 years, but in 5 years. You can see this. So when you're in Pakistan, you feel absolutely safe. I've been visiting many places here, and I've got a feeling of a very safe place. I've not been everywhere, but everywhere I go, I'm comfortable. I've been in countries where you wouldn't feel that safe in my previous years. So I can tell you from experience that in Pakistan, I feel very safe.
And Excellency, what's your short experience of 3 months in Pakistan about the security situation?
Well, I can only subscribe to what the French ambassador just said. I think security has significantly improved. There are still some spots where it's perhaps still, where there is a way to go. But all in all, I would agree with the assessment that security has been on the mend, clearly, and we also somehow revised our security advice to German citizens quite recently.
So if, Excellency, just a question. Many Pakistanis would like to ask this question, that if you think that the security situation in Pakistan is improving, then don't you think that the name of Pakistan from the grey list of FATF should be removed?
Well, I think it's two different questions. Security, physical security when you're in a country, and FATF. Security, we dealt with this, so I explained to you why we think that security is much better now. FATF is another issue. It's a technical issue. There's a list of things that Pakistan is expected to do. Again, FATF, it's a purely technical exercise, and I'm quite confident that Pakistan exerting its best efforts to do things, then we will move forward. But, countries that are also supposed to be safe countries are on FATF grey list. I mean, Tunisia, until recently, was on FATF grey list. Iceland is now on FATF grey list.
Iceland?
So, I mean, you can see that it's a purely technical thing.
So, very, very interesting example that Iceland is on the grey list. So, can you say something on the FATF grey list? Well,
again, I agree with what Mark said. It's a technical issue, but there is a list of requirements that is being addressed by the Pakistani government. And I would say, even if I'm not privy to the details, I mean, we know as we speak, I mean, there are ongoing discussions in Beijing, and there will be a plenary in February in Paris. my sense is, yes, Pakistan has even made on that technical score some progress over the last couple of months. I have seen, I would say, a greater commitment by the government, and that showed. Whether that is, or whether this progress is sufficient to convince the FATF plenary remains to be seen. I think in any event, I think it's imperative, because that is one of the main, I would say, the main planks of the FATF agenda. It's imperative not only in the FATF context, but also with regard to political issues, that, and to the laudable claim of the Pakistani government to be a force for the good in the region, to consistently fight groups that engage in cross-border terrorism. And that is an ongoing struggle, and there is, as I think, some way to go.
So we will take a short break here. Excellency, what do you think about the role of Pakistan for bringing peace in this region, especially the role of Pakistan in Afghan peace talks?
Well, I think that peace in the region is very important, because it's a region that has been through difficult times. So we have seen that Pakistan is playing a role very actively, not only for Afghanistan, but we know that now there are also crises and conflicts that are stirred up in the Middle East, and all efforts are welcome to try and bring tensions down. We are hopeful that because of the negotiations that are being held presently, a solution will be found to the crisis in Afghanistan. And we wish that the Pakistani efforts will be successful in this regard, that they can bring a contribution like other countries in the region, because it's not only Pakistan. You need the cooperation of everybody. Same goes for what is going on in the Gulf region. Pakistan has undertaken sort of facilitation between Iran and its neighbors. And this is very much welcome, because again we also try, France and Germany, to contribute in a positive way to these peace efforts, and to the fact that we really need to ease tensions, because this is what the populations are waiting for.
So do you think that Pakistan is in a position to resolve issues between Saudi Arabia and Iran?
I think that all efforts are welcome. But again, when you have two countries that are in a situation of crisis or conflict, they have to talk directly to each other. And you cannot expect the international community to do the job for you. But the international community can help. There are many countries that are helping. We are grateful to Pakistan for helping. We know that Oman has been playing a role, and we regret the passing away of Sultan Qaboos, but Oman has always been playing a very positive role, and other countries in the Gulf as well. Kuwait has played a role, and European countries have been playing a role as well. So everybody, every country is necessary if we are to implement peace in this region.
Excellency, Germany is playing a very important role in the Afghan peace talks since long. So why the peace in Afghanistan is important for Germany and other European countries?
Well, it is true that Germany tries to be helpful in the Afghan context. We have hosted various conferences over the last couple of years. But peace in this part of the world, in the region, particularly in Afghanistan, after almost or over 40 years of war and internal conflict, is certainly in the interest of, I would say, virtually everybody, but also particularly of the Europeans. I mean, the European Unions and the Europeans, we are trade-faring nations. We want in the areas of our, I would say, political and economic interest, we want stability, we want peace, we want tranquility. So that has actually motivated and informed the German engagement in the Afghan, and it's not only the German, it's the EU engagement in the German, in the Afghan peace process. And we are still prepared to host another inter-Afghan dialogue in case the ongoing talks between the Americans and the Taliban in Doha will lead to a result, what we all hope. But still, I would say the jury is out whether that will be possible and within the considerable period of time.
Ambassador Mark Verity, your final message to the people of Pakistan.
My final message to the people of Pakistan is that they are beautiful people, very hospitable and very tolerant. I want them to keep doing the good job, and I wish very much that Pakistan will come to peace with all its neighbors.
Ambassador.
Well, on that basis, I would say get engaged, get involved. And what we have said about the German-French reconciliation and eventually friendship, it has a lot to do with the people themselves. It has to do with grassroots contacts, and I think that is what the Pakistani people also should do. They should get engaged in domestic issues, but also in foreign policy issues, reconciliation with everybody in the region, because I mean, if you want a credible nation, that goes for the other nations as well. You have to live in peace with your neighbors.
Thank you, Ambassador Bernhard Scheglich and Ambassador Mark Verity. आपने फ्रांस और जर्मनी के पाकिस्तान में एम्बेसडर्स की गुफ्तगू सुनी। उनकी गुफ्तगू में पाकिस्तानियों के लिए बहुत अच्छे अच्छे पैगामात हैं और वो पाकिस्तान में जो अमन व अमान की बेहतर होती हुई सूरत हाल है उस पर बहुत खुलकर उन्होंने बात की है, और जो बहुत से पाकिस्तान के दुश्मन हैं उनका जो प्रोपेगेंडा है उसकी उन्होंने तरदीद की है, और उम्मीद है कि आने वाले दिनों में पाकिस्तान में अमन व अमान की सूरत हाल मज़ीद बेहतर होगी। मुझे दीजिए इजाज़त। अल्लाह हाफ़िज़।